Well, hello, my name is Michael. I'm a recovered addict. I'm an alcoholic, drug user, sex abuser, you name it. Been there. I overeat, overshop, did it all. But on the 27th of September, 10 years ago, something happened to me that would change my life. So I'll start from the beginning because the last time I spoke here, well, it was in a church, but it was 5 years ago on my 5th anniversary. And so a little bit about myself. I was born into adoption. I was 6 days old, and I was handed over to the best of parents that one could ever hope for in adoption. And 6 years later, I lost one of my parents, my father. So I only had one other sibling, which was my mother's natural son. His name is Norm, my brother. And so my journey began then, even at the age of 6. I didn't understand where my dad went. My mom was going to work. My brother left the house. And so it was just me and my mom. So it took a while because he died on December 14th. 1972. And so we didn't have a Christmas that year. So I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who was also a florist. And when I came back the following year, my mother decided, well, we're going to have Christmas, so we're going to go in the attic and we're going to get a tree, and you're going to help me with decorating, and we're going to do this. So that year I got to open last year's presents. And so still no brother to be, so it was me and my mom for Christmas, and then, family and friends get together and stuff. At the age of 9, I figured that I felt different than everybody else. I didn't feel like I didn't fit in anywhere. In school, at play, when people would come over, it was always awkward. I was not the kid that, got along with everybody. I always went on to the side type thing. And then as I got into teenage years, I kind of realized that something that was different about me was that, well, I'd learned that I was adopted. I learned that I lost a father. I had also learned that maybe I wasn't going to meet the woman of my dreams, that I think I like guys. And that was a hard thing to swallow because I was from a small town in Valcairn, Ontario, from Sudbury originally. And so growing up, I had a lot of friends because I was a little bit weighted, and so the big joke was, give it to Mikey, he likes it, he'll eat anything. And so I was kind of like the class clown, so that's how I made friends. And I tried to hide my homosexuality all those years, so everything was in the closet, and that's where that comes from. And so the best way that I learned was I was 11 years old, and I got my first drink. And wow, I was like, there's my best friend. I knew right away I liked it so much, and I'd seen everybody do it. And I was in there, and I knew that's the way that I was going to push everything down, and I can be somebody else. So that was the first drink. Every other weekend, it was another party, and all of a sudden, it was every weekend, and all of a sudden, I was in college, and I'd met a girl. She was my best friend, and I was going to marry her. I was going to make my family proud. I was going to hide who I was behind that lady, and I was going to show everybody that I was okay and I was just as normal as you were. So the drinking kept going, and my fiance at that time, Angie, she knew that I liked my alcohol a lot, and she was like, there's no problem here, is there? And I said, no, everything's good. So we got married, and it lasted less than a year before our first anniversary. I had learned that she had been cheating on me with somebody else, so it didn't even pan out to more than a year married, which was kind of a blessing in disguise because I was able to hide, again, my homosexuality and my drinking. Now my drinking had gone out, overboard, and college years I had done that. And I just kept suppressing. Every year I kept suppressing some more, adding to the books. The weight on my shoulders just kept building and building. And so I decided to leave Sudbury. And I was a social worker back then, so I was in social work, and I decided to go to North Bay by myself, start a brand new life. I was separated now, and I had told my mother that I was gay, and the one thing that she had told me, she says, she goes, I never want to tell you how to live your life. I never wanted to interfere in your choices. I wanted you to make your own. But she goes, I'm your mother, and if you think I didn't know, you're mistaken. So she was very, she really took me in. She really accepted. She says, the only thing that I wanted for you to be happy, because I'd been through so much as a young child. She carried that guilt with her, and I knew she did. And when I went, I had seek some help, and they had told me that I'd become a parentified child. I don't know if anybody ever heard this, but it's when you become the parent and your parent becomes the child, and you think that you need to make that parent okay. So you try to carry on that burden. So that was another one in my pile, So I was working as social services, and I seen and lived extreme things that I shouldn't have seen. I was an emotional wreck. I wasn't ready for that kind of work. So I was burning out. And I went to the doctors, and they said, you need to go and rest. You need a full-on rest to reconnect, go back, you need to stop. So I went home, and I went back to my mom's, and I said, I don't think I'm going back. I think I screwed my life. And so she said to me, she says, well, I don't know why you never became a florist. And that was kind of the seed that planted the way to my 37-year career of being a florist. So in doing so in Sudbury, if you're going to become a designer, there's no place for you in Sudbury. It's just not a place where people love flowers as much as a bigger city like Ottawa or Toronto. So I was introduced here to a guy named Silver Rose, Jerry Ariel, who became my mentor. And so I thought by moving away and coming here to Ottawa that I could shut that door and open the new door. First of all, I was able to be myself. I was out of the closet, with all the big designers, and they're all, I thought this will do it. This will be great. But the party never ended. The party just got bigger. Living a gay life in Ottawa just shown itself that if you wanted to meet somebody, the only way you could do it back then was go to CPs, get trashed, do drugs, go and sleep with someone, and wake up the next morning wondering who you're sleeping next to. So I did that for the next, how many years? So it just went on a downslope, I was still very, very close to my mother, and even though she was still in Sudbury and I was in Ottawa, every night after I finished work, the first thing I did when I got home was I'd call her, and she was my best friend. There was no God in my life at that time. She wanted me to talk to God. She wanted me to be with him, but I wouldn't hear of it. I felt I was a sinner. I wasn't good enough for anyone, including him. But I kept on my conversations, but she got older and she got weaker. And every time I had my 7th beer, she'd say, well, I have to let you go, Mike. I'm really tired. I have to, but it's because of my drinking. She couldn't take it anymore. I spent a lot of nights just doing that. And it was it was like like a dream that just kept over and playing the same record every night. I'd go to work. I'd thrown up in the morning. Sometimes I'd shower, sometimes I wouldn't. Dirty clothes, stinky. I used to smoke 3.5 packs of cigarettes a day. I'd drink a 12 packs of Old Milwaukee Ice, and it all by myself, like alone in the house. But my facade, the outside, was I was living in this lavish home. I was a well-known designer, and I was it. And so I kept it up for like another 8 years. And even the girls at work were like, you know, do you ever think that you need help? Like, do you want us to help you get some help? And I said, what are you talking about? I don't need help. But sometimes they would send me in the back room to paint some vases or something because I reeked so much of alcohol, nicotine, and not showering that they, instead of embarrassing me, they would send me to the other room so that I wouldn't see the clients. They wouldn't smell me like that if I went and worked in the back. So, but on Saturdays, because I had such a good week and I brought in so much money for them, that they would buy me a 6-pack. So even during work hours, I could have 2-3 beers while I was working. Imagine that, that was my reward. So when in 2008, I got a call in the morning from my brother that my mom had passed away in her home, in her room, that she had gone at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's almost like a click. Almost like when you hurt your neck. It was a click. And I was like, something happened. So that was it. So all that being said, I went through treatment and I came out and I did the steps. I found God, and I was very blessed to come to Ashes to Rubies to meet John and Vicky and the whole crew here. And my life has turned around. Today at W Flowers, you can find me. I'm the owner of W Flowers here. I have 3 staff and 3 wonderful staff. And what we do is we help people who are addicts or trying to get help. We help people with mental illness. We help people with homelessness. And just 2 years ago, we started helping the elderly in retirement home. So I found my purpose. I found my sobriety. So it's 10 years coming this Tuesday. So I wanted to say thank you so much. My name is Michael, the designer.